Happy Invincible Friday, everyone. The latest episode is now out on Amazon Prime. This is a spoiler-free review, but oh boy, there is a lot to talk about. So this is my review of episode 5 of Invincible. Mark Grayson comes across a fellow super being who has been caught on the wrong side of the tracks, while at the same time he realizes that balancing his superhero and personal lives is not as easy as it first appeared. Now, before we dive deep into this review, I want to know what you think. Have you been enjoying Invincible? Did you enjoy this episode? If you've already seen it by the time you come to this review, let me know all that in the comments below. Start the conversation. It's the most important part. And while you're down there, why don't you consider clicking the subscribe button? It does wonders to get my content out there, and you'll be adding more people to the conversation in the comments below. And I gotta say, episode 5 of Invincible is one that while I was watching it, I kept feeling like this is slower and more small scale for what I expected, given that we're on the latter half of the season. But by the end, everything comes together amazingly. We have Mahershal Ali voicing Titan, who has shot right up as one of my favorite characters in this show, and I really like how him and Invincible come together. This is just a guy who decides to ask Mark for help because he's in a very tough situation and he just wants to help his daughter. And knowing that Mark does decide to help him because he's just a good guy, while at the same time there's a lot of pressure in his relationship with Amber. She wants him to meet her mother, then she wants him to help her at the food shelter, and all these things pile up because Mark is a guy that does mean well. We know why he's always late or why sometimes he doesn't show up to something they agree to do together. And I really like seeing those things being presented as part of the main story because it gets to a person. He's a superhero, but he's not omnipresent. I mean, he's the son of Omni-Man, but he's still not omnipresent. I think this show creates a really great balance of giving spotlight to the superhero side of things, but also the personal side of things, and it really makes us realize how tough it is being on Mark himself, because in this episode he comes across completely likable. He's just a dude who is trying really hard, and last week in episode 4 I saw things are working really well for him, both in personal life and in his superhero life, and in this episode it comes crashing down. It gets to him. He just can't do it. There's a moment in this episode that I cannot talk about, but oh my god, if you plan to react to this episode, those last 10 minutes are juicy, to say the least. And kudos to Amber, who is not written as just a girlfriend that throws him away. She tries really hard to understand his side. It's just that Mark is not telling her the truth, and bringing Eve into the equation really adds another layer of dynamics into this relationship. One of the most tense scenes in this episode, because of what Mark is going through, is a scene at the dinner table with his mom and his dad, and him asking for advice on what he should do. And of course we get a continuation of events that transpired last week. If you're very much into Damien Darkblood's investigation like I am, this episode continues to plant those seeds and further that storyline. As well as the Guardians of the Globe, we start to see how this team works as a unit. And without spoiling anything, they kind of have a lot of work to do. I briefly mentioned how by the end this episode comes together beautifully, and it really does, and it escalates the drama and the tension and intensity of the story, pushing it forward for the rest of the 3 episodes that we got left. There is a post-credit scene that is really interesting, and I cannot wait to see where they go with that. Just in case you're not expecting it, don't close out the video once the credits start, because there's a tiny little thing that you should see. So episode 5 of Invincible, turns out it's probably my favorite of the show thus far, because it not only comes together beautifully by the end when I was just thinking, oh, okay, this is too slow. No, it's really freaking good, but it also makes episode 4 look better when you look at it in continuation, and I think that's just great writing with great characters in general. I honestly did not expect that an episode of this show could shock me as much as the first one did, but this one really does. It enhances and shifts character dynamics, and it pushes us forward in very intriguing ways. So those are my thoughts on episode 5 of Invincible. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below, start the conversation, and if you've watched this far but still haven't clicked the subscribe button, consider doing so. You'll be getting my content out there, you'll be bringing in your friends and more people to talk all things Invincible, and of course join me every Friday as I will review every single episode. I probably will have an episode for the latest episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier later today, as well as the second episode of Shaman King. I hope to see you there, and so until then, love each other, and love the movies.